what is the recipe for success? Through the years, I've discovered all success contains one common ingredient: excellence. And I'm thrilled to have here today Chef Karl Benko, who taught me about excellence, not just in the kitchen, but in life. Chef has opened some famous restaurants you've heard of and a few you haven't, but he's here today to teach us how to develop a new recipe for excellence in this success from anywhere world. So Chef, thanks for being with us today.
Honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, one of the things I've discovered from working with the chef is even in the kitchen, things aren't always what they seem. In fact, you have a few ingredients here that people may recognize, but they're just in a different form.
Absolutely. So every one of us has eaten asparagus. This is what happens when you let asparagus fully grow out. It was very young and I didn't want to cut it to try to serve it, so let it grow out, get a little bit stronger. Something that people love with shrimp cocktail is horseradish. This is what a horseradish leaf looks like. I grow horseradish not for the root, but for the leaves. In fact, as you can see here, take a bite of that and see what you think.
Well, I have to. Oh, wow. Okay, so if I saw this, I might think this is just a lettuce leaf or a piece of kale. I wouldn't,
right?
I might pass it by, but.
What you'll notice, you've got a nice chew on it like kale. About 4 or 5 seconds, that pepperiness will come through, but it's not near as hot as the root. But I grow it for the leaves, not for the root itself.
Wow, and so what I'm hearing you say is as things grow and change, you can find new uses for them.
Absolutely. I mean, how pretty is that?
It's fantastic. And can you actually cook with this? Is this useful?
I have put frauds on like crudos and smoked salmon like this, so you get a little bit of that vegetable flavor, but you got to make sure they're nice and young so they don't get too tough.
Well, one of the most important lessons that you taught me is that there is a single litmus test to discover in any restaurant if that restaurant is excellent. Now, for those of you watching, you might be thinking the answer to that question is Yelp. And I have a surprise for you. It's actually not Chef.
No.
How do you assess excellence in any restaurant?
First thing I do is I look at knife skills, and I look at the knife skills that go into a soup. And people are like, what? Why the soup?
Right.
I see when I get a cup of soup or a bowl of soup, and I'll get something that has to have some skill to it, not a lobster. Lobster bisque has skill, but I want to see knife set. If I see perfectly cut vegetables, all the same size, I know that the cook has been taught a level of excellence. I know that the person above them has instilled that and is managing that. On the same note too, if I get a bowl of soup and all of a sudden I see everything just randomly chopped, and the word chopped to me is annoying because it just shows without thought. If I get a cup of soup that has random sizes, a potato this big and an onion a 1/4 inch and stuff, I know the person doesn't care that made it or hasn't been trained. I know the person above them either does not care or hasn't been trained. And I use that as a test through. Knife skills show me a level of discipline, determination, and desire to be excellent.
Well, Chef, what I'm hearing you say is that every industry, therefore, has something literally called a hack job. And a hack job is indicative of something done last minute in a haphazard way. It doesn't indicate excellence. It sounds like excellence is about consistency to some degree.
Consistency breeds credibility. If it's always the same, it's always at a high level, we know somebody cares. The old quote is, give the hardest job to the laziest man, he'll figure a way through it. It doesn't mean it will be done well. We need people that have passion and want to do the right thing as best as they humanly can.
And so excellence then becomes a series of small steps executed consistently over time so that people come to know what to expect from you. Is your work excellent?
Well, and think of consistency, and not that it matches this, but McDonald's. You go to McDonald's anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world, the food is the same or should be the same. From Carmel, Indiana to Santa Monica, California. Does not matter, should be the same. And a lot of times in this day and age, people find consistency means better quality.
Well, if we're known for the products that we produce, something that I've learned from the chef over time is the power of precision and the importance of being willing to begin again if what you're doing isn't excellent. And I'll never forget the time that the chef was teaching me how to make some of that soup. And what he's starting to work on right now and what you're seeing here are the beginnings of a dish. And if any of these ingredients are going to be cooked, right?
Absolutely.
There's actually a culinary reason they all need to be cut the same size.
They cook all the same speed.
Ah.
And they'll keeps the same texture, and nothing gets mushy, and nothing's too hard to eat.
Yeah. Well, and people expect that bowl of soup to be excellent if you're going to spend money for it. And what I discovered was when I produced something that wasn't excellent, the chef wasn't afraid to come by, pick up those scraps, and turn them into something else. To take that product and say, begin again. He's like, what do you want to be known for? And what I took away from that is excellence is a function of practice. It's a function of care.
It is desire. It's a desire to do the absolute best that we can. All these restaurants I've opened across the United States, and I've been so lucky to work with so many great people. We train for perfection to get excellence. If you train for excellence, you're going to get above average. Life is too short to do anything just above average. A B is okay, but an A is better, right? That's why we encourage our children and our students to do the best they can. Can we always do an A on everything? No. Should we attempt to all the time? Absolutely. If the brightest man in history can say embrace failure as Albert Einstein, then guess what? It's okay to make mistakes.
Well, tell us, we all have our own version of something that we tried and, failed or had to start again. I have to think you've got at least one or two great stories of some dishes you had to radically accept were not going well and begin again. So how do you access innovation and creativity in a kitchen, even as experienced as you are?
So research is a great thing. People that pull things out of the air, unless you have experience, a lot of times they're prone to have to work through it a long period of time, right, to get to a level of consistency and quality. Young kid trying to make a lamb terrine.
Tell us what that is. What is a lamb terrine? Just in case.
So if you
not that this has happened, but sometimes people have been at home eating things like, I've heard this, like macaroni and cheese from a box for the past year. I don't know if that's happened at your house. We won't ask you to confess.
No. AJ doesn't go for that. But so a lamb terrine is a grind of meat that we have cured and seasoned, and normally use pork fat in there because pork fat is very palatable and easy to eat. Well, didn't have enough pork fat in the house, so I thought, you know what? I'll render down the lamb fat, and I'll use the lamb fat. And I thought, man, this is smart. And I put it together, and I made it. And it was atrocious because cold lamb fat stinks. It's like eating wax. It didn't melt in the palate, so I had to throw this away and start over. And it was like, note to self, never use anything but pork fat in your terrines and your pâtés.
Hybrid work. Employees want it, employers need it, and everyone has questions. When done right, facilitating flexible work can be a win-win for everyone. Happier employees, engaged teams, and better business outcomes. Robin is here to make the logistics easy. Our all-in-one workplace experience platform helps thousands of companies reimagine their approach to work. To learn more about how we make hybrid work work, visit robinpowered.com.
Someone figured out the recipe for that, and you should follow the recipe.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, one of the other lessons I've learned from you is that with great chefs, just like you were showing us with what used to be asparagus and utilizing every part of a vegetable or a product for its purpose.
Absolutely.
So many times in teams and in organizations, people feel like they're underutilized.
Oh, absolutely, because the leaders aren't actually trying to drive them to replace themselves. Every restaurant I open, I raise my hand, I go, I want one of you to take my job. That's my goal. And 60% are like, yeah, and then you get 40% like, whoa. And it's like, why? It's like, well, if you do my job, I can go do other great things. And I have the opportunity to grow more myself, besides you growing. So it's a win for everyone.
Is full utilization in the chef world considered a mark of excellence?
Absolutely. Every dollar that we waste in a kitchen, that you throw away, whatever it is, I need to make $3.50 to $4 just to get back to even, not make a profit. Consider that cook that needs that 50-cent or that dollar raise for his family and for himself. Utilization is a sign of being mature and being realistic. There is nothing I'm going to get 100% yield off of that I cut, that God makes the food, we cook it. I can't make that happen. But can I take and properly cut vegetables and throw them in a stock pot? Absolutely I can.
Okay? I've heard it happens. From time to time.
And that's okay, because you always had the ability to excel and rise above, and that was obvious in class. So what did that do besides aggravate the hell out of you? You got better. You got a lot better with your knife skills.
Yes.
And that's what you were there for.
Yes. Well, you know, when I think about that, the link between utilization and care, you just mentioned it. It's about tapping into our fullest potential. You know, and when you're looking at these different ingredients, I mean, so many of us might have walked by this as a garnish on a plate or seen this growing, not even known what it was. When we pause and get a little curious, I think what you're saying to us is asking a question like, what else could this be, is a tool to unlock potential and to explore creativity.
What can I do with that? Can I make a chimichurri out of it and pray it and put it on steaks?
Well,
Or a
I'm
piece of
open to
chicken?
that. I'm sure
Absolutely,
everyone
right?
is.
How about this? How about if we take these and
Okay.
we'll make a little salad with the horseradish that we can taste?
I
How's
like
that
it.
sound?
Absolutely. Well, tell us what you've got in the bowl already so that we all
So,
get to see.
We have fresh shucked corn.
Okay.
This time of year, Indiana, you can't go wrong with
You
that.
gotta love this.
Cucumbers.
I mean, come on.
Cucumbers are one of the healthiest vegetables you can eat. We threw a little basil in there, a little bit of a fine dice of onion just to give some flavor and texture. What we'll do, here, grab that other leaf.
All right.
Pull it off the stem for me.
Okay. Pull it off the stem because the stem part's tough. And since we're talking about utilization, what else are you going to do with the stem? What does that become? Even if it's compost, but what else could it be?
One thing is, can you drop it into waters and infuse flavor for blanching vegetables?
Ah,
All
there
of a
you
sudden, I
go.
can give another layer of flavor to broccoli. Some people love broccoli. Out of all the cabbages, probably my least favorite, just because I find it kind of bland. But if I can add those flavors,
Okay, so
that
we'll
makes a
save
lot
this
of
for
sense.
later. Sure.
Absolutely. All right. And when we cut for salads and stuff, we try to cut everything about the same size as well. That way it dresses with the dressing the same. How about get us 2 bowls?
Consistency. I can absolutely do
Okay.
that.
And we want to cut it to where it's just a bite full, so about an inch piece. Makes it a lot easier for people to get in their mouths. And I don't want guests to have to work. I want them to be able to eat.
You know, that reminds me, I was working with a big company and they described it as they were trying to make the experience for their customers better. So they launched something called the No Homework Initiative because what they realized was they were making their customers do work they should have been doing. And so this is the version of not giving your guest homework to create an experience.
I will challenge our guests to eat and enjoy themselves. I won't challenge them to eat the dinner, if that makes sense. I want them to enjoy it. I don't want them to deconstruct something. Don't we have enough of that?
Yes, yes.
So let's just...
And what are you pouring in there now?
A little
Tell us
rice
about
wine
this.
vinegar. You had some beautiful extra virgin olive oil. I love texture. And when you think of cooking, when I was on the U.S. culinary team, we were taught every salad needed to have 3 things. Greens, a dressing, and a crunch or a textural component. And they always use the Caesar salad as the stick, right? Romaine, Caesar dressing, croutons. So there's difference in feel.
So sometimes the basis of innovation is starting with what you do know and with what's familiar. You know, if you know what a Caesar salad is, you can imagine what a Caesar salad could become or how it could evolve. And I think we can all do that in our everyday life. Start
Absolutely,
with what
right?
you know, consider what else could this be and evolve from there.
Well, and when you think of salads, I think of corn. I think of cucumbers here, nice and refreshing, that little bit of fresh basil.
I also think about co-creation, right? And perfect pairings. And something I've learned from you is just like great teams and great talent, food and wine can go together incredibly well. And when you put them together, they become something better collectively than they were individually.
Absolutely. I was talking earlier that a lot of times when I go to do training at restaurants, I will find a cook that's got a lot of passion, a lot of skill. And I'll find he made a mistake. And that happens, right? They're training, they don't know everything. But what I'll do is I'll own that. I will take that and say, hey, and I'll take it in front of 60 or 70 people. Say, hey guys, I did this wrong. Am I lying? A little bit. But it's to do a morale boost and a teaching boost. By doing this, they're like, I made a mistake, we're gonna start over and do this right. And what it always did is it opened up the doors at these cooks like, Chef, I did this wrong. It's like, good job for being honest. Good job for caring enough and having that perfection straight. Let's redo it. And it was always a boon to morale.
And what I'm hearing you say is that one of the most powerful tools for building trust, for leaders especially, is be accountable for what hasn't gone well.
Absolutely.
And then you
Own it.
train your team to do the same and give them permission.
You
Well,
have
tell
to-
us about, oh wow, I feel like we're about to celebrate something here.
Well, I like sparkling wine with salad.
Who doesn't?
So this is Gruet from New Mexico. People like sparkling wine from New Mexico. And what's cool is that many areas of Spain, the heat, the terrain, all that is very, very similar. And you'll see with the pepper of, didn't foam over, yay!
A true professional at work.
It just means I know how to pour wine. But you'll notice that this with this salad will pair very, very well.
Well, let me get us a-
because the acid of the wine and the carbonation will cut the spice of the horseradish.
Well, and something that strikes me here is, we talk so many times about bringing our whole selves to work, all of our skills, our potential, every aspect of ourselves. And here, you're bringing all of these beautiful ingredients together. You're bringing all of them, right? We've got something we can drink, something we can taste, something we can see and smell. But I think there's one more sense that you're going to teach us how to tap into out of these 5 senses.
5 senses in the world. What are they?
Well, I hope I remember these. Otherwise, it's going to be a
It's a
really
test.
rough day. Yes. So we've got what we see. We have what we smell. We have what we taste. And gosh, I feel like we've got what we hear. We've been talking about the power of listening, and also what we touch, our sensory experience.
So when you open wine, 4 of the 5 things are accomplished immediately. What is not? Sound. That's why we cheers glasses. It gives us that sensory piece. We have aroma, we have flavor, we have sound, and texture.
Well, I was thinking about the perfect pairing for success, and not only is it excellence, it's tapping into all of the senses that you need to come alive, to be at your best, to bring all of you together into your full potential. And when you show up and you're committed to excellence and you care, you have an opportunity to get a little bit of instruction, and you start with what you know. You have the opportunity to elevate some everyday ingredients that you might already know as your strengths and elevate them into something creative and beautiful that will stimulate your audience as well. Thanks so much, Chef Karl, for being with us, and I
Honored to
have
be
to
here.
say cheers.
Cheers. This video.